Hello, everyone. Welcome. I'm Dr. Jon Randall with XFA. We have us the ultimate marketing guru, Hillary Gale. Hillary, it's awesome to have you here.
I'm so excited to be here and do this with you, Jon. This is fun.
We've done a lot of podcasts together. You have an awesome podcast where I've learned a lot about advisor marketing. And I know our theme today is really just how to get more clients as advisor. I think it's every advisor's favorite topic. What do you think?
Yeah, I think it has to be, right?
So we're going to take you through what Hillary and I have learned helping advisors for many, many years, watching them grow, watching them scale. And as Hillary and I prepare for this, we talked about the different methods of client acquisition that's out there. So I'm just going to show something quick and frame it. We can talk about each. We can talk about what's working mostly for advisors, but I know our theme was more of how to top advisors get like automated stream of referrals. It happens. It really happens. Yet our event, our big event, we put on a large event for the advisors we coach with pillars coming to at the end of April. And we interviewed last year 3 advisors that are bringing in over 100 million net new assets annually, all from referrals. And it was really cool. Basically had them showcase to the group what they're doing. And they all pretty much said the same thing. They all said, we're just really good at helping a very certain type of client. And they're really good clients for us. And they've given us referrals to a lot of other people. They're so busy. They don't do any kind of marketing. They don't have any content out there. They're not doing ads. So I think in the service business, that is one of the biggest ways that people do get new clients. So yes, that's a fundamental. We'll talk about that. But I see practices have a lot of things surrounding the referrals, which I know you're so good at, Hillary. So before we get into like the 4 types of marketing, I mean, what do you see practices really do that really surrounds all their marketing plan?
Yeah, I think especially for practices who are kind of getting started with marketing, thinking about it in a way as like your marketing helps your referral strategy, it underlies your referral strategy is really a way that I think advisors squeeze more out of their marketing than they think they are in the beginning. Because a lot of times marketing, it can be slow in the beginning. It can feel like it's not working. And that can be really frustrating because, like you said, our favorite thing to do is just to get clients, right? We want the
Yeah.
clients to come in. And so what I think marketing, when you talk about it as like having content or having a really polished up website or LinkedIn profile or whatever it might do, it's just strengthening that referral system because when people get referred to you, very rarely are they just, oh, great, I heard your name. I'm going to reach out to you. I'm going to pick up the phone. Now they're either Googling you, they're maybe checking you out on LinkedIn, they're going to your website. And so what they see there does have an impact on either how excited they are to make the call or whether they make the call or not, or respond to your email or however it is you're getting introduced to them.
You know, for anyone listening to this that's producing under $1 million in revenue, listen, it's a grit and grind to get to $1 million. And you can do it as an advisor. We see a ceiling between like $1 million, 1.5 million for a typical individual producer. And then at that stage, it requires getting other advisors on your team to help service clients, right? It's hiring them to help you so you can grow and scale and have a return on the investment in them. But there's only so much you can do at that stage, right? You don't have like, I think some of what we'll talk about is how to keep it simple for no matter where you're at. And listen, we work with firms that are doing over 10 million, 100 million in revenue. Some of the, Barron's top 100 in the industry. And sure, they have more resources. They can hire people internally to help with this stuff, but still, I'm big with them on keeping it simple. You don't have to do a million things. Let's just be really good at a small number of things, which is, those practices of bringing in 100 million net. They weren't always that way. They were small. They were under $1 million. It was just one person and they built their way up to this. I like how you frame it that these things surround the largest client acquisition method for advice, which is referrals, right? It helps them come in much, much faster. So
you mentioned that the 3 advisors that you interviewed, they were all kind of doing the same thing. They had this really clear target market and that's who was being referred to them. I see the same thing with advisors who are marketing, whether it's online or they're doing in-person events or whatever. The advisors that are getting results from marketing are really, really clear on who their niche is. It's like kind of a must-have.
Yeah. And I agree so much. We talked about that last podcast we did that I find that being the number one constraint to client acquisition when you're just trying to get anybody, which is hard when we're new advisors, like you have to get anybody, right? It's like, It's just how we start. And so some things I've learned getting a PhD in psychology is that our brain kind of craves equilibrium. So when something new and different comes along, our brain says, I don't know about that. I'm going to keep doing things the way that I have been doing it. It's a protection mechanism that our brain has, and your brain will trick you into doing things your old ways. Like it really will. So I see this a lot of like, hey, I did this early in my career. Now I'm busy with clients and I'm going to keep doing the same thing. Even people are like 30 years in the business, just keep doing the same thing and they keep getting the same result. So I agree with you. The ones that really win, they narrow down. There's this cool term I've heard called hyper niching,
Mm-hmm.
which is like so like really narrow. And I equate this to like, how can you be so narrow that you're like the only fish, the only financial advisor fish in that small pond, right? Because it's hard out there. There's a lot of competition. People offer, low cost offerings, but if you can be a specialist for a small group of people, you're the one that they know and they work with, right? It's how do you get to that level? But I think it's scary for advisors to narrow down, right? It's like, gosh, well, I might get clients here, I might get clients there. So how are you seeing advisors do that? How are you seeing them go from like this super wide range to like, okay, I have a target market?
Yeah. Well, someone who just popped in, and I'm going to call him out, I don't think he minds, is Mitch McNeil. He's kind of in this process right now. And I absolutely love what Mitch is doing. Mitch, I really hope you don't care. Can you tell me if you care if I call you out?
That's fine.
So Mitch has recently, in the past, I would say 6 months or so, started to hone in on real estate investors as a group of people that he really likes to work with because Mitch himself is a real estate investor. And so there's just lots of opportunities to help that group of people. I think, Mitch, you have a few clients who are real estate investors, but broadly, you serve a wide range of clients with different needs. So I think focusing on a niche, a market that has really specific problems that are
Mm.
different from everyone else's.
Millions of them, right?
So I think identifying a target market that has a real problem that you can solve. And if you have a relationship to them in some way, or, you have a background, I mean, all the better because you're going to be even more passionate about that niche. They're going to relate to you. What do you see?
Yeah, I think it's access. It's really, if you have access to this
Mm.
group, it's easier. But if one of your clients is in this group, you have an in, right? You have an
Yes.
in. There's this cool story floating around the industry about hyper niching. There's this advisor based in Missouri who works with like over 90% of the professional bass fishermen. Like what a weird niche. And his father was doing this stuff. And it's a expensive hobby for all these people, right? It's not their main job. They're doing it on the side. They're highly competitive. They invest a lot into it. And it's a hyper niche group, right? What other advisor is the specialist for professional bass fishermen, right? And this advisor crushes it. They have 9 figures in they have a smaller number of clients. They have like a very profitable practice. So I think the narrow we can go is big. So we talk about in the podcast, I see a lot of times that the most common target I see is advisors say, I work with business owners. There's
Mm-hmm.
20 million in America. Like that's a big ocean with lots of sharks swimming, right? Trying to
Right.
get those clients. But how can you like really get narrow to a specific type of business owner? Like
Mm-hmm.
so narrow that you might be the only fish in that pond that would help those people. That's what this advisor in Missouri did of like, hey, I specialize in helping these professional bass fishermen. No other advisors hanging out here, right?
Right.
No one else is here. A niche at that level might make someone's career, right? If it's big enough, but you might swim in that small pond to get as many clients as possible, be really good at it, and then go to the next pond.
Yeah. It's not a lifelong career change. I mean, it can be absolutely span the entirety of your career. This is the only people that you serve if it's big enough. But if the pond is so small that there's like 5 people in it and you get 3 of those people, you're eventually going to have to hop ponds.
Yeah, but it's pretty awesome if you do get 3 of those people, right? If they're
Right.
really good, if you have an ideal client in there and there's some other ideal clients, that's awesome. And then you hop to the next one, the next focus. And I think the quickest path is through existing clients. And it really helps you focus on where you should apply effort. So I'll just frame this influencing referrals through what you do with clients. This is our growth model that we help financial advisor practices grow and scale and do it with more profitability. But everyone wants to work on, the fun stuff, right? How do I acquire more practices like the Barron's Top 100? how do we attract new clients organically? I mean, that's the fun stuff. But if you don't have a constant stream of new referrals, like something's going on in your delivery or fulfillment, what you do with clients, it's not optimized yet. And when I pull the onion back further, I see the real constraints are things like capacity, too many of the wrong clients, right? We're not able to deliver a premium experience to the ideal clients. So if you have a small number of targets or small number of ideal clients, it's easier to deliver a premium service there. So invest more time with those people, talk to them more often, bring them the best advice, bring them as much as you can. That way, I mean, what all these people said is basically, that we interviewed on our panel, they said, hey, we just basically did that and the referrals just happened. We didn't even have to ask. We didn't have to do anything. They just came. They just happened.
So I love remind me, it's your IPO method, right? For
Yes.
getting referrals. Can we talk about that a little bit?
So in this has to do, so constraint number one is targeting. And then the second constraint I see is framing.
Mm,
So the gap I see with people that actually do use referral scripts, or there's a lot of great methods out there, but I find they lack the framing for clients to help the client, especially a target market client, to understand who you help best. So if anyone ever get like random referrals, you get someone's kids who are not a fit to be a client, you get someone's brother that has no money, right? We've all been there as advisors. We get random referrals. And the reason what it happens is the lack of framing. So senior advisors struggle with this for years and years. We developed this IPO method. And so I stands for improve. So a way to just confirm value, just ask clients, hey, I want to be the best. Is there anything that we can do to improve? And what do clients say most of the time, Hillary? Like, oh, you're the best, right? Now, if they do have something, okay, let's work on that, right? Let's work on that. But most of the time, they're going to say, you're amazing. You're doing a great job. That's why we're here. So they just confirm value. So the P is really praising them, but this is where you're framing. You say, oh my gosh, I really enjoy working with you because you're a commercial real estate investor in my town. You're the type of person I help best. You're open to advice. You implement advice to improve your situation. And then the O is just very simple. All we can really do in referrals is turn someone's radar on and antenna up. You can't put people on the spot. They usually rarely have anyone, right? Who are the other commercial real estate investors in town? So the O is just offering, saying, hey, if there's any other commercial real estate investors in our town, just like you, I will always make time for them.
mm-hmm,
That's all you have to do.
mm-hmm,
So when I see advisors just do that framing, their referrals explode because now the clients know who they help best. They're not going to refer their brother who has no money or their kids who are like just starting out that don't have any money. Sure, I'm a fan of helping out the kids, but like, it's not your ideal client. How do you get to more ideal clients? This is really the way. It's the brain, but it's that framing part, right? Every other referral script kind of has like, I just help people and help them for business, which is fine, but that's why we get random referrals. So if you want to really get targeted, number one constraint, get more targeted than you are. Then number two, frame it a little bit better. It really helps. It really helps. But I'm glad you, remember that and identified that, because when advisors do it, they really win.
Yeah. Talk to me a little bit about the psychology. I mean, you have your doctorate in performance psychology. What's the psychology of starting with the question of like, how can I improve?
Yeah. Well, I joke around and say I got it to figure out why advisors don't do what they should be doing. But I just learned a lot about how we are as humans. And the biggest thing I see is advisors get busy and they get in these cycles of just doing the same thing over and over again, hoping they're going to get different results. Or the other thing I see too is they'll chase a shiny new object. So
Mm-hmm.
a common entrepreneur symptom is they'll get uninformed optimism about a client acquisition method. It didn't work for me. And so there's this uninformed optimism of, oh, this shiny new object came, it'll work for me. And then they go through it, they spend money, they realize it doesn't work. Then they have informed pessimism and they're like, crap.
Mm-hmm.
All right. And then they go to like this cycle. So I think we've got to work through some complexity here, right? And you might hit the valley of despair. You might hit some points to really make this work before you can really build back up. So we're predisposed not to do, something new. I see advisors trying to do too much, doing less is better, right? Whatever's
Mm-hmm.
working, or a simple method, like just go really deep on one method and be awesome about it. And then as you get better at it, surround it with other things. And then when it comes to trying something new, I mean, we're just going to predisposed to not, right? If like we never exercised ever, and all of a sudden we're going to decide to get up at 4 a.m. to exercise, what's our brain going to say? You know what? This bed's pretty warm. Your
Yeah.
brain's going to come up with all kinds of reasons why you should stay in bed, right?
Yeah.
Especially, doing it day after day after day, staying consistent with it. Oh, it's raining outside. You know what? I should probably stay in bed today. Our brain will invent reasons to keep us in our comfort zone. It really does. So there's a lot there, but it's how we are as humans, right? And we see with clients and prospects, sometimes they get comfortable with wherever they are and they're not going to change. But yeah, it's just being a human being. That's all. It's pretty insane. But I'll pass along any learnings from it. But that's the biggest thing. It's just, okay, this is how we are as humans. And a lot of these things impact our performance. And it's really neat to see outliers in like sports or music or acting, whatever your idiom is, or the financial advisor business. They've just broken through some of the discomfort to get to the other side. It is really all that it is. But
So you gave a really great example a week or two ago when we were recording our podcast of like kind of getting back to this idea of the niche, and you will get more referrals naturally, sometimes without even having to ask, the more specific your niche is. And you brought up this term that I really like, actually, hyper niching. Can we talk about another example of that? You gave the example
yeah,
of, the bass fishers.
yeah. It's very rare that someone goes into the financial advisor business like, I'm going to help this super narrow group of people, right? It's rare. So people find these things through their client base, then go deeper. So a wonderful organic growth advisor that we work with, her name is Jennifer. She's near Houston, kind of in oil countries, a lot of big oil business down there in Texas, all the way through Louisiana. And so as Jennifer looked at her book and who her ideal clients were, there were actually these small business owners that supported oil and gas. They might make like a gasket that these refiners would do, like a real like specific thing they use. And they might know somebody else that like makes maybe the pipes the gasket goes in, right? Because they have to coordinate things. They might make a valve that is, one refinery uses. So there's this weird network of these like really niche-y businesses that support the oil and gas industry. So she had some as clients, and when we just kind of combed through her book and like, hey, who's your avatar? Who's your like ideal client? She's like, I love these people. They have lots of money. Even before they've sold their business, they have lots of money. I'm really good at helping them because I'm a business owner. I understand how to help them as business owners. And so she just said, hey, instead of helping everyone, I'm just going to go deep on this. And she brought in 150 million net in new assets last year, just from referrals. It's really just her. She's the front of the business. She's the one getting referrals. Now she has some advisors on her team that help do the servicing, the back end, but it's really her getting all of these referrals on the front end. And so it's really just looking and finding like, what is this really specific thing? It's not people working in oil and gas. It was like these really specific people. And then there's an interesting network of them. They refer to each other. Some of them buy and sell each other as like suppliers. And so it's just keeps going, and there's more. She discovered, oh my gosh, there's so much more to go. There's so many little weird businesses around here, and they're all just crushing it, and they're all need a lot of help. And she's like, I'm really good at helping them. And, it helps when she literally is that fish in that small pond, because her office is like in oil country. These people don't have to drive 45 minutes to, downtown Houston to see an advisor. Sometimes it's like geographic. Sometimes it's an industry. I've seen some that are employers, which are really common. I think work-related ones are probably more common, and not everyone has this. Like we work with a group, they're across the street from this giant employer, and all these clients are awesome clients of this giant employer. So they have like total domination of this employer. So they're like, we have one pet client, we just crush it with this one client. So not everyone has that, right? Not everyone has that, but they're there. But it really is not just going like someone in oil and gas, not someone in oil, owns a business in oil and gas. It's like getting down to like these really small part suppliers. There's a lot of them, and they're extremely specialized, and they have this whole network among each other. And if you are in, you have access, right? If you have a client that you're in, there you go. And it's just run down that niche. And it can make someone's career. Like Jennifer's absolutely crushing it. Imagine bringing in a whole practice every year organically, 150 million new assets, net new
Yeah.
assets. That's after, what you bring in minus what goes out for clients that are retired or whatever. That's pretty
Right.
awesome business.
I guess one thing that I want to know is, do you recommend like focusing just on one niche at a time? I mean, could you conceivably say to two different clients, I work best with Twin Cities real estate investors and like, if you know any more, and then say to a different client, I work best with medical injury attorneys or whatever. Do you think
Yeah.
it's better to just focus on one and be honest or
Yeah. Cause not everyone has like a jackpot niche, right?
yeah.
Not everyone's there. So I usually find up to three is capable for advisor to focus on.
Mhm.
And you could use that positioning or that framing with each of those that, oh my gosh, I specialize in people just like you. So when I was an advisor, which I was for a lot of my career, not anymore. I sold my practice many years ago, but when I was an advisor, I had to do that. So my wife's brother was here. He played college baseball here, and that's like the only people we knew. Oops, it's really get a quick start here. But I quickly met like a small number of people and was like, hey, okay, this person can be my in here. This person can be my in here. And so even just building up, starting from zero, I wasn't even into a million yet. I looked, okay, I can at maximum handle three possible pools of new clients. And not all of them worked out.
Mhm.
But I ended up settling on a small number of niches that really worked. It was this weird kind of business owner that owned multiple car dealerships was like my avatar. And I
Oh, that
stumbled
was
into one.
you.
I stumbled
Yeah.
into one and I was like, oh my gosh, this is like such a weird business. I learned everything about that business, how to help the families and it's multi-generational. And so it turned out there was others just like them, regionally. And so I really went down that rabbit hole, got really, really good at helping that client and then started a position with them. You know what? I specialize in this. There's
Mhm.
no one that knows everything I know about helping you in your business. And so if there's every other one just like you, I'd be happy to make time for them. And it happened, right? I got like
Mhm.
4 of the 5 of these mega 8-figure clients that just happened for that. There was an employer in town that we started to help some people at. And we had a prominent person retire. And they kind of came the stream of every person retired from this company. They asked her, hey, what should I do? And they're like, you should talk to Jon Randall. He made it really easy for me. So it kind of like, you got to try some because they won't all catch. So you got
Mhm.
to try a few. And then when one catches, like go deep, right? Go deep.
Mhm.
It might make your career, but I find a lot of times you got to be working like 2 or 3 to see what catches. More than that just gets too hard. It's too
Yeah.
confusing, too hard. And we'll talk a little bit about the surround sound that you're so good at creating around the referral of, okay, how can we help these people, with your content and LinkedIn? Like, how could these people, when they do check you out, they see, oh, wow, I see stuff that relates to me. It's not just generic financial advisor
Right.
talk. It's like you're speaking to
Right.
me and
Right.
I confirm that you're the type of person that can help me. And one of three will catch. One of three will catch. And if you need to replace another one, add them on, it's fine. But for the most part, most advisors we coach and go through this stuff, they're going to find some kind of gold in one of those targets.
I'm really glad that I asked you that question because my next question was going to be kind of how long do you give it until you realize this isn't really working or I just need to give it longer so
Yeah.
you're not just waiting before you move to the
Well,
next one.
I love financial advisors, but the patience is very short, I think is the best way to say it. If I sort of try something, this doesn't work for me. I talked to CPA, finally got relationships. I referred them to clients. They gave me no clients. This sucks. I'm never doing this again. It may take years, like 3 to 5 years before CPA is ever comfortable to give you a client, right? And most advisors just don't give it that time frame. I always suggest there's a million things you can do. Let's do things that have the shortest timeline to success. So a referral to somebody else just like them is the shortest timeline to success. But when you look at your ideal clients, which are probably larger clients, it's a longer sales cycle. So clients that have a 500,000 to 1 million are typically like a 30 to 60-day sales cycle. You get to 1 million of 5 million, which I find that's like most advisors' sweet spots. They'll say, the industry average client is 1.66 million with their advisors. So I see like a lot of 1 million, 2 million. That's like the ideal clients in most practices. Not many are dabbling like over 5 million. I mean, we have one advisor specializes in people with 25 million to 200 million. They're just
Mhm.
crushing it there. But the more you go up, look at it, the longer the sales cycle. All right.
Mhm.
So it kind of depends on the pond that you're in. So if you're talking to people like, that own multiple car dealerships, they're 8-figure
Right.
clients. You're getting over a year to 2 years before you even get introduced to them as a prospect. Now there's techniques to accelerate, which our whole system, there's touches you can do to accelerate them coming in, but I mean, it's just going to be a longer sales cycle. So it depends. You just got to know that going into the pond that you're going to play in, right? If
Mhm.
it's an employer, then there's a lot of people retiring. You're trying to catch people when they're retiring. They have between a half million and a million. Okay. You can probably get some traction with that sooner. But the larger the client, you look at your top clients, your most profitable clients for everyone listening, they're probably going to be over a million. And so it's going to be a longer cycle. So advisors will say, man, I've tried this out for 2 months. I'm not getting anything. I'm going to go on to the next pool, the next pond. It could take months. Usually I find when an advisor just focuses their client optimization on like one of these three ponds, I find usually after about 3 to 6 months without even asking referrals, without even doing IPO, just doing it, it's usually about 3 to 6 months, they start getting referrals from
Mhm.
these clients. And then think about when you start getting referral, then the sales cycle starts, right?
Right.
Where it might be 2 to 3 months after that before they become a client. So you do have to give it enough time. I know every advisor wants quick wins, and I want you to get more assets as quickly as possible. So in the meantime, do more with your existing clients and grow while you're waiting for the next ideal new client to come in. But think about it, if you get a new client with 5 million, that's like bringing in 10 clients with 500,000. So
Right.
instead of spinning your wheels trying to get 10 clients that are smaller, get one really, really good client coming in. So it
Right.
will take longer, but I just find advisors just eject a little bit too early. Now, if you've been in a pool for 3 years and nothing's happening, okay, like time to move on. But if it's worthy of a pool and you're really working it and you have a true connector in there, you got to give it some time. You got to give it like at least a year to see, am I getting traction? Am I getting new clients from this? And I'll see year to year advisors will kind of update their marketing focus of like, okay, I'm not getting anything with this pond, or it's too hard to get people in this pond, right? There's already a fish in there that has everyone. I'm not going to break in, so I'll shift. But each year, if you just make a shift, it gives you enough time to try and get 7-figure clients plus. It's what we're after as advisors, right?
Yeah.
That's what the game's about.
Talking about how a lot of this stuff takes time, what are the things that we can focus on that are going to get the quickest wins? Okay, that still takes some time. So what are the things that we can focus on that get even quicker wins? And that's something that, I've really learned and tried to do with advisors over my time working with them as well, realizing that like, okay, your content and your online presence and your marketing, that's probably the longest term strategy that you have, but how can we have what you're doing right now? How can we use that for that long term to increase your referral? And then in order to increase your referrals, what can you be doing? How can you be tapping your current clients to increase
Yeah.
revenue? Like, I think that's just such a smart approach
Yeah.
for all of these things.
So, going back to everyone's favorite topic is pick up new clients. And I mean, it's usually the number one reason people come to us. They'll hear about our advisors that are 10Xing in 5 years. They're like, I want to be like that person. How did they do it? Would you show me? We can show you, but it didn't start with acquiring another practice, right? It
Mm,
started with getting capacity right. It started with optimizing what we're doing with clients. And so, yes, we help with growth, but we also help with profitability. The easiest way to get more profitable is just do more business with your existing clients. So our metric in client optimization is what's your revenue per client. So if you take your top line revenue divided by your number of clients, you get, you're in a like households, not like there's two spouses and two kids and a trust. Like that's not 5 clients. It's like one client. You can come up pretty quick. So the industry average is crossed over 10,000. 10,300 is the average revenue per client of a financial advisor. Now, most practices out there have too many unprofitable clients, which drags down their average. I'm not saying like kick them to the curb. I'm saying like, let's not spend as much time with them. Let's spend more time with the better ones and see how we can do more business with them. Do we have all their assets? Are their assets in the best place possible? Pricing is a big opportunity. Are you aligned with the industry average pricing? Are we adding on other services and products? Paid for financial planning is like the hottest thing in the industry right now. And advisors aren't making it available. Like everyone's on it. It's like the big wirehouses, even Schwab, Vanguard,
mhm.
they're adding financial planning for clients. It's paid for, like it's hot. Insurance products, making that available to clients. Like there's a big easy ways to generate more revenue for existing clients. And so it's so funny. Advisors that just get really good at client optimization. I mean, by accident, they just start getting referrals because people are satisfied. I relate it to people want to come in for the fun stuff, which is my favorite topic. So client acquisition, practice acquisitions, but it's like the second floor of a building or a house. You have to have a strong foundation, which is the scaling topics of we got to get capacity right. We got to know what structure we're building into. Because if we don't, the cracks are going to show up in the foundation. The strong first floor is client optimization. It's just generate more revenue per client. It's every practice has the ability to do more per clients. Just do that. Even the number 5 ranked Barron's practice we work with, we coach. Guess what they're doing every single day? Trying to do more with their existing clients to increase profitability. It all goes to the bottom line. But if you don't have a strong foundation, strong first floor, you can't start building a house on the second floor. It just doesn't work. So get good at those. And then while you're working those referral pools, you can still have growth and more profitability. And if you're doing it with the clients that are the access points, oh my gosh, they're going to be even better advocates because you're doing more for them. You're helping them with more things. So they'll be more likely to refer, and they'll have probably more reasons to refer you because you're helping them with more stuff.
I wonder if we should kind of recap what we've talked about. If there's any final things that you want to share, and then we can open it up for Q&A.
Yeah. And anyone can just, come off mute, type something in the chat, whatever you want here. We'd love to help you. But all kinds of marketings, they all fall in these categories. There's cold outreach. I'll mention some popular ones that we see. Hillary, Smart Assets, a really popular one. Jetpack Advisor, something like that. That's the one I heard of. They basically, you're buying cold leads. So they do produce leads, but cold is hard. Right now, some advisors started, like I started cold calling people in New York. That's like a high effort to get cold leads, but you can pay for cold leads, but it's hard. It's a whole nother game. You got to warm these, you got to have a whole system to warm these people up. I think you have the best mindset of anyone I've seen in the industry when it comes to content marketing, what it's for. You're not going to get new clients from posting. You're just not. Your existing clients are going to see it, which helps them influence them to refer. But if anyone checks you out, they're going to see like your LinkedIn first. And Hillary, you're one of the first ones to help me realize my LinkedIn profile stunk.
I didn't actually say that though.
Yeah. Does it really speak to who you're trying to, acquire, your avatar? Ads are interesting. That's a whole nother game. I see some people getting into that. We have a whole playbook on that. That's a whole nother thing, but it's organic. Just be focused on where new clients are coming from. Most clients are coming from referrals. A very, very distant second is professionals like CPAs. That's a hard game. And then all these shiny new objects are all other methods combined. So let's just be really good at the most likely method and just get better at that. And that's how advisors are winning. And they're doing it with more profitability too.
We love profit.
It'd be fun to open up to questions. If anyone type in the chat or just come off mute, there's even like a virtual hand raise at the top of the screen. If anyone wants to do that, we'll keep going until somebody puts something up. But what do you find, Hillary, are some of the areas that advisors struggle most to implement? I mean, there's so many things they could do. You're a great guide for what they should do, but where do you see them struggling? Where do they need the most help?
I think you kind of hit it on the head where there's so many shiny objects out there that it's hard to just focus on one thing because, I mean, there's so many voices in this industry that are talking about as if their thing is the one thing that you should be doing, right? I think a lot of advisors too that I've talked to, especially in the past 6 months or so, struggle to think about referrals as something that they can systematize or have control over because I think there's like a little bit of hesitation around, I don't want to feel slimy asking for referrals. And so they're less likely to implement like good referral systems. That's why I love your IPO method so much because that feels so natural to me and you're adding value to them through that conversation in multiple different ways. You're asking for them to show you how you can improve and you're praising them, which makes someone feel good, which is valuable.
A lot of top clients don't even think they're a top client. If you're like, yeah, you're one of my ideal clients, they're like, what? Really? And then like middle, small clients think they're your biggest clients. When you really tell them that you're one of my favorite clients to work with, you're an ideal client for us. And here's why. They're like flattered. They're like, really? We thought we were just like a nobody for you. When do we take the time to do that as advisors? We really don't. So it works because you confirm value, you kind of flatter them along the way, but then you frame exactly who you can help. So advisors that use it, I mean, they're like, oh my gosh, like it's like within 2 weeks, I started to get like very high quality referrals. I mean, it can happen that quickly, but
Yeah.
if you're already doing a good job with clients, it can happen that quickly. If you got some
Right.
gaps in your client optimization, then, let's patch up those holes quickly. It's not hard to do. You don't have to do it
Right.
with everyone, right? Let's just do it
Yeah.
with like less than 10 clients, be really, really good at,
Yeah.
and
Like
that
the
anyone
top.
could do that. Yeah.
I think the other thing that I see advisors struggle to implement really, really well is the niche. Like there's so much hesitation around the niche. And, I see a lot of advisors say, well, I mean, like you said, I work with business owners and think that they have a niche, or I work with doctors and think that they have a niche. And yeah, for some advisors, like, yeah, that's fine. It is working for them, right?
Yeah.
But it could be so much more efficient and effective if it was more narrow. That would actually be something, if there's anyone in here who it struggles with this or thinks they have a niche, but are wondering how they could go even deeper. I mean, that's something that you and I would love to workshop on.
Yeah, I think I find advisors struggle with that too. I mean, we've got a guide we built for, but we have a finding your target market or your niche guide, and it starts with clients, but there is a step-by-step process to narrow down. I think it's hard for a lot of people, and then
Hmm.
you just go through the process of like, yeah, I don't just help doctors. Like they're in your book, like, well, what kind of doctor are they? Well, they're orthopedic. Okay, what kind of orthopedic? They're an orthopedic surgeon. Okay, well, what kind of clients they work? They specialize in athletes. Okay, the world's getting smaller. What kind of athletes? Well, the athletes at XYZ university. Okay, like how many are those people? Or is there a
Hmm.
network of like orthopedic surgeons that specialize in athletes? Are they getting together for, conferences to help each other out, right? Is there a
Hmm.
network of those people? There's other people like them. And so sometimes it's just talking it through. Sometimes somebody else can see it sooner. Because I think it's hard when you're just in the trenches as an advisor and you're busy, right? It's sometimes
Totally.
hard to see the things, but usually the answers are just right in front of them. And it's like, all right, let's clear through the clutter. Like it's right there. Let's just run down that path. But that's why working with, awesome consultants like you really help. And it's why, the fastest growing practices we see are using multiple consultants, different specialists in different
Hmm.
areas to help them really grow and scale their practice. I mean, these large 10-figure firms, and they got like 5, 6 consultants. So like, we just want to get better. We just want to get better. And
Right.
so it's helpful to do. And if you make an investment in some kind of help, the goal is to get a massive return on that, right? I know your clients do. I know our clients at XFA do. That's really the goal. But sometimes somebody else can just see it and it's like, here it is.
Absolutely. Well, did I ask you the question? What do you think is the toughest thing for advisors to implement or kind of focus on?
When it comes to organic, I think it's the constraints of, developing the focus and then how to frame it. I just think, to
Mhm.
simplify it, I think it goes back to those things because it's going back to psychology. It's how we grow up in the business, right? We just come up in the business with, we'll take on anybody because we have to. And we
Mhm.
get stuck with a lot of small clients that helped us in the beginning. So it's like the things that got us here won't get us there. And
Right.
I find the game completely changes at each stage, right? If you
Mhm.
double your practice, you have a whole new set of problems you didn't even know about.
Mhm.
So some of the fundamentals still arise, like doing more with existing clients, getting to other clients through your access points, right? Those fundamentals are never going to go away, but it just gets more complex as we go.
Question from Nathan came through.
Okay. Is there a framework put at the end of a meeting where the meeting is discussed? From Harvard University, they found that in a 30-minute meeting, the average human retains 3 minutes. So think about, no offense, financial advisors, because I was one of them, our boring, nerdy financial meetings. If people aren't financial advisors, like it's like this, and they're nodding their heads to be nice, they don't know what the heck is going on. They're just looking for you to give them advice. Just do this, just do that. We'll take care of the rest. I almost think it's more valuable to do as a separate outreach. I think it's even valuable just to call somebody and say, you know what, Hillary, you and your family are just ideal clients. You're the type of people we help best. I just want to call and let you know, is there anything, anything we can do better that you see? You know what? Here's why you're one of our ideal clients. You frame it with them and just wanted to say thank you for being a client. There's anyone ever just like you we can help, I'll always make time for them. I mean, it's almost better to do it outside of that. Now, in theory, anytime a client recognizes value, you could launch something like that and say, you know what? Well, I'm so glad you value what we value you. Thank you for being a client. You're one of our best clients. Here's why. And if there's anyone in the world just like you, we'll make time for them. So you could do it at any point, but just keep in mind your tolerance for your financial meetings is you can handle a lot, your clients can't. And so they're usually brain fried by the end of a meeting. So I find the ones that just do a separate outreach to targeted people, they have more success with that. They have more traction. The ones that pack it on at the end that are like, I ask every single time, it's just hard, right? It's just harder. I just think it comes down to clients aren't as versed in the stuff we're talking about. And we talk from our perspective, financial talk, but they just can't handle it most of the time. Yeah, it's a great question. Nathan?
Yeah.
Well, let's get some more questions going. Hillary and I each had some cool things. I'm really excited about the challenge that you have here. It's really cool. I'm just going to throw this out real quick before we do more Q&A. We run at XFA, we run some scaling workshops. We show how advisors have 10X really quickly. We run them about every other week. Most of them are virtual. We have one in person coming up in Houston. Sometimes it's just local advisors. Sometimes people travel to them. They're intended for people we're not working with. If anyone wants to check one out, we'll pop a link in here, but we'd love to have you there just to talk about this stuff. It's really based on these specific topics we've seen that are really critical to growing and scaling the financial advisor business. It's really what we take people through. And we give you real examples like Jennifer, I mentioned, here's how she did it. Here's how she's acquiring clients, or here's how they found it. So in a workshop, and they're not all day, they're like a 10 to 3 or 10 to 2:30 kind of thing. But we're able to hit these and at least help you identify what are the constraints holding you back. What's the small, I mentioned small number of things to focus on. What's the small number of things you can work on that's going to grow you the fastest? That's pretty much what we do in those. But Hillary, before we do more Q&A, you have the email challenge.
A lot of advisors that come to me are really interested in growing on social media and kind of like expanding their audience, getting visibility on social media, which I think is fabulous. I'm a big fan of that strategy, and I think that it absolutely can work. But I hate for advisors to stop there because then you said this earlier, Jon, it's rare that someone who sees you on social media and loves you on social media, it's rare that they're actually going to be ready to reach out and book an intro call with you. I can think of a couple advisors that I know it happens for and they do really, really well. But I think that you're safer also building an email list there for many, many different reasons. So you're kind of converting the attention that you're getting online into the email list so that you can send, you have a little bit more control over who sees your content. They see your name in their inbox. They've said yes to you in a way. There's kind of something psychological going on there. They've handed over a piece of personal information. And so I am a huge fan of advisors growing their email lists as a little bit of extra insurance in addition to having a social media following as well. However, growing an email list is hard. It takes time. Getting people to hand over this little, first name and email address, that private personal information is still quite an ask, even though it's free. So I have a fun little 7-day email challenge that you can grab. I think Shiro just dropped it into the chat. It gives you really easy ways to grow your email list kind of on autopilot and building it into things that you already do. So the first day is actually, I'm just going to give it away, is adding to your your scheduler when somebody books a meeting with you, asking a question if they want to subscribe to your newsletter for, whatever the benefits of your newsletter are. And between 60 and 70% of people that book meetings with me say yes, they want to, subscribe or whatever. So it's a really, really easy way to grow your email list.
I'm going to ask you questions. If anyone else has more in the chat, go for it. But I think an easy place to start is every advisor probably has like some prospects that maybe are not clients yet. Maybe someone got referred, it never worked out. Maybe talked to someone a year or two ago, it never worked out. I think this is a fantastic method. So what do you see there? What are some easy things that advisors could deploy with like past prospects or maybe current prospects that just haven't jumped in the head first in the deep end to be a client yet?
Well, if you are doing content, whether it's a blog or I know Nathan has a really great YouTube channel. If you have a podcast, that's what I have. Just following up with them on a recent thing that you've put out there and letting them know hey, this reminded me of your situation. I just wanted to send it your way. I thought it would be valuable. That's a really great way to re-engage them without just hey, just circling back. It's just restarting that conversation with them in a warm, helpful way that I've seen to be really successful.
I think about a magnet and a magnet's turned the wrong way and it kind of repels things. I think when we're like, hey, when are we going to do business? When are you going to schedule a meeting with me? Right. I think a lot of times with prospects, it's like the magnet's the wrong way and it kind of pushes them away. So you
Right.
want things that like draw them in or magnetically draw them in, and giving away value through something like this is a wonderful technique to do that. Hey, here's something of value. Check it out. Right. And
Right.
just to have their info and just to get it out to people over time. I mean, they'll magnetically come in. I remember being in practice learning this stat that it was between every 3 and 4 years, Americans tend to have a life event that triggers them to want to get advice, like be
Mm,
a job change, career change, death in the family, new kid. You might get a referral, might get referred to somebody that just you're not high enough on their priority list to do something about, right? There isn't any pain. They're like, oh, I'm fine. I think the markets contribute to it. I kind of like this. Yeah, I secretly like this market volatility we've been having this last
yeah.
couple of weeks because prospects are comfortable. It's like, hey, my accounts are going up last 3 years. Even though I don't hear from my advisor, like I'm making money, I guess I'm okay. It's when the pain temperature turns up, when they're like, oh, I had a life event, or now I'm worried. Hearing from my advisor, I might need to look. So
Yeah.
if you're the one that they're getting value from, not their current advisor, that'll happen. I did this stuff when I was in practice, and I remember getting some new clients in my town, and they would say, I hear from you more than my current advisor. And like, I don't like, I've never even talked to you.
Right.
For the last 2 years, you give me such awesome stuff. And, my wife and I were talking like, why on earth we work in this other person we never hear from? Like, we should just come in and work with you. So
Yeah.
it does. I'll tell you firsthand, it does work, but just having a small little arsenal of some items of value and the stuff Hillary helps you build. I mean, it's easy to just repurpose and just get out there. So
Yeah.
if you have content for clients that helps them, I mean, it's super easy to repurpose that with prospects. And I think it's one
Right.
of the easiest ways to repurpose it is just send it as value to people that are in your pipeline.
Yeah. People that like are going a little bit cold. That's how you keep them warm or how you warm them back up to send them the value. I mean, you talked about, you have a guide for everything. I think a lot of advisors have some stuff like that for clients that they can easily
Totally.
just send it as is or repurpose it or whatever it might be.
Totally.
It doesn't have to be anything totally new.
Yeah. And if you don't have something, I mean, if you're affiliated with a broker dealer, the broker dealer has stuff that's approved that you
Mhm.
can use, right? If you use products, product companies usually have stuff that's approved that you can use. So you don't have to like invent the wheel or be some, novelist or economist that writes something. It's out there. It's out there and it's just copy and pasting. And as long as it's relevant to your targets or the people that are in your pipeline, as long as it's something that would be helpful to them, send it out there. It works. But think about that magnet, right? Don't repel them by like, when are we going to do business?
Yeah,
Draw them into you by giving away some value.
I love that.
Go ahead, Mitch.
Any other best practices like on the newsletter stuff? Abby and I just talked about this today. Like, do we just ask everyone individually? That seems super time consuming. Is there some other tools just to automate it? Like huge email blasts and we get a bunch of yeses or nos. Like what other ways? Because your scheduler link, I like that.
Yeah.
What else have you seen that works?
Like in terms of sending a newsletter to get referrals.
No, like actually, like, should I be asking clients or prospects for permission to add them to this newsletter? Like that.
Oh, I see. So with the client, I think you can send newsletters to clients because they've given their information to you. You're sending them stuff that's genuinely helpful and relevant to
Yep.
them. But having that unsubscribe link or like even just like a PS if you want to stop receiving these emails, just hit reply and let us know. That is perfectly fine. If they don't want to receive, your updates or whatever it is, they can let you know.
Got it.
That's the easy
And
one. And with prospects, you're not sure, you could just send them something of value and be like, hey, if you found this valuable, let me know. I send this to my clients, once a month.
yeah,
Just easy
with
technique. But
like with prospects, I would not just automatically include them in your like they should opt in to getting
Yep.
your monthly newsletter or whatever it is. They should have a chance to opt into that. But sending them a one-off like email that's personal to them, there isn't obviously nothing wrong with that
Okay. Good. Thanks.
question. Yeah, it's a really good question.
it's a great workshop. Click on the links. We'd love to see you in a workshop. I'd love to get you on the email sprint here. I think that 7-day challenge is pretty exciting.
Well, John, this has been so fun. Thanks for doing this with me. This is great.
If anyone wants to go back and reference things, we'll get it out there. And I'm sure you'll see it on Hillary's social media too.
It'll be there.
All right, everyone, have a great day. Make a difference for your
Bye.
clients.